addiction or trauma? Does it have to have an order? We're learning that, right? So the reality is there's various types of traumas. And we know that there's a receptor in our brain that lies dormant. I promise you, I'm not a big fan of science and math, so just hang with me for this next point, okay? So the way trauma works is something is either directly exposed to us or indirectly exposed to us. Our brain stores that information. So we have neural pathways in our brains. Basically what I offer to people is imagine that your brain has a gazillion wires and they're all straight and they make sense. But the second that as a child or as a young person or an adolescent or an adult, we're exposed to fear or secrecy or manipulation or shame or chaos or unpredictability, those wires suddenly get really mixed up. They start getting tangled. And as we begin having tangles in our brain, we start changing. Our brain chemistry gets changed. So now imagine, stick with me, we already have a genetic predisposition to addiction. We already have a receptor that's just lying dormant. Now we've got a bunch of tangled wires in our brain. You think the chances of being able to navigate avoiding that receptor being triggered is high? Not very likely with a bunch of tangles around it. What begins to happen is the body starts to store memories. So think about this for a minute. When you smell something, do you have memories from when you're 5 years old? What comes to mind? Raise your hand. Tell me about a memory you have every time you smell a certain scent.
Christmas trees.
Christmas tree. What else? Grandma cinnamon bread. Now a negative memory from a scent. Raisinets. Now I want everyone to hear this. Notice the reaction that just occurred. A lot of us giggle, right? Most common response I get every time I do these groups. Because we think, how could raisinets be harmful? How could there possibly be a negative correlation? That's what trauma does to us. Trauma is individualized. Trauma stores in our bodies. Trauma stores through our senses. So our olfactory sense stores memories. So at age 5, if I was sexually abused for a long time, I'm going to remember my abuser's cologne or perfume. I'm going to remember that color or that blue. And for the rest of my life, I'm going to carry those stored responses in my mind. Now, remember, I'm walking around with tangled wires in my brain. So at age 11, if I'm at home and I already have a parent who's an alcoholic or a meth user, or they're my physical abuser, or they're my abuser who sexually abuses me, the chance of me developing an addiction is insurmountable. I've already got tangled wires. My receptor was just triggered. It starts in childhood. Now I want each of you for a moment, think about your own individual childhoods. Think about the types of primary caregivers you either had or lacked. Think about the modeled behaviors you were exposed to. I know, speaking from experience, I don't have anything positive to look back on. I think about the lack of models. I think about the dysfunctional models I had, and I think back, I had no chance of not going into some type of unhealthy, maladaptive pattern in my life. And I had to recognize that. So today we're going to give you that healing opportunity. So what we're going to do today, and I promise no one has to share anything intimate, okay? I understand that it's a really scary place to be. It's really scary to be vulnerable. So let's talk about why vulnerability is directly linked to our addiction. What comes to mind when you actually think about, just for a moment, if I asked you to come and sit and stand in the center of the circle here, and I asked you to take up as much space as you needed, and I asked you to tell me and tell the rest of the room your personal story of your abuse or your trauma, how would you feel? Anxious, shame, embarrassment, judged. And yet every single one of us, I guarantee guaranteed, I only know 25% of you. Guarantee you that every single one of us carries secrets and shame. And every single one of us fears judgment, but every single one of us would never dare and place judgment on someone who's hurting. Do you hear the dichotomy in our thinking? It makes no sense. So what I want to do today is teach you how to actually give yourself permission to be more human. I refer to this in my practice with my clients as giving yourself permission to feel. Okay? So we're going to practice that today. We're going to practice feeling. Okay? So what I want everyone to understand is the difference between familiarity and safety and comfort. So I'm going to give you a scenario. Imagine a 5-year-old child. They're being abused every day by their caregiver. And one day a child protective service worker comes to their door, knocks on the door, and says, "I'm here to rescue you. I'm here to take you away." Does the 5-year-old want to leave? Why not? It's called a no. Now stick with this for a moment. That's all we know. So if I'm being abused day in and day out, whether it's my emotional abuse, my sexual abuse, my sexual trauma, my physical abuse, my psychological, mental abuse, it's all I know. It doesn't mean it's comfortable. It doesn't mean it feels safe or healthy. It's just simply what I know. It's the same thing with our addictions. Whether it's my gambling addiction, whether it's my sex addiction, whether it's my drinking or my meth, it's all I've known for many years. So how do we go from trying my first sip of alcohol at age 6 or 7, maybe at someone's event or a home party or a friend's house, to that long fall to sticking a needle in my arm every day and checking out and saying, I don't care if I miss my best friend's wedding. I don't care. How does that happen? What's your understanding? So this is where I want you to really chime in. What's your understanding? What happens?
I think so many layers of trauma start building up that by the time you get to using heroin, you just want to be numb and not feel any of it. And usually someone that's using heroin is indicative of somebody that's had an extensive history of trauma.
Here we go. So think about that for a moment. Has anyone in this room ever met a healthy addict? No, it doesn't exist. Healthy is defined as what? Emotional health. What would that feel like inside? Emotional health.
Balance.
Balance. Having the resources to deal with the stress. How would we know when we've healed from our trauma?
Not triggered.
Aha! So this is the most this was Ellie? You got candy. This is the most common response, and this is what we typically will say when we're not triggered anymore. So let's go back to and revisit the body connection. For a moment, I want everyone, if you're comfortable, close your eyes in the group setting, just for a moment, and ground your feet, just for a moment. I'm going to ask just for a moment if we can close the door just for 10 seconds. I want you for a moment I'm going to do something called an activation exercise. I want you to think about the most painful experience you've ever had and sit with it. Lean into that discomfort. Think about the colors, smell the senses. Lean into it. Activate your pain. Activate your anxiety. Sit with your discomfort. Sit with it. Think about the people involved. Think about the fear you felt. Now open your eyes. Was that uncomfortable? Did we make it through? So there was no consequence to sitting with our emotions. What you've just done is feel your feelings without trying to do anything about it. Okay? Now the difference between what we just did and living with surface recovery